see how well I can do this. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Hope everybody is doing well. Good afternoon. Put a heart on the screen if you are inside of the Periscope app, or say hello if you are viewing by YouTube live stream, which I also have going, because I don't like to repeat myself. All right. So I'm going to get started in just a moment. And I want to say good afternoon to those of you who are watching and those of you who are viewing outside of the Periscope app. Good afternoon to those of you who are viewing by YouTube live stream. Today, all you're going to be seeing is my lovely Medi socks here. And as you can see, I have a nice space set up for you right across from me. So I hope that you will take a seat today and listen in as I share with you 40 lessons for 40 years. Today is my birthday. And as I was contemplating my birthday, I started thinking about what are some of the things that I have learned and am still learning in the past 40 years. And so I wanted to record those things, and I'll probably revisit them next year. But just wanted to record them and share them, some thoughts on my heart. So I am in recovery mode, and I have been in pain today. So I'm going to try to get through this before I fall off to sleep again. And I do believe that what I have to share today is going to be helpful to those who have an ear to be helped, and to those who have a mind to be helped. So if you're just coming in, I say to you, go ahead and have a seat on my couch. Matter of fact, let's bring that couch in just a little bit closer. There you go. And doing the same for my YouTube live stream audience. And just make sure that you have something to drink. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of water, bottle of water, and we're going to get started. So, what are my 40 lessons for 40 years? 2017, I felt like came for my life literally. It was a very, very stealth attack. And being that I am here by grace of God, I'm going to share some things that continue to resonate with me. And some of the things are new things that I have learned in this year. And the rest are things that I just continue to know and understand about people. And so I'm going to share those with you. One of the number one things, and these are in no particular order. Number one is listen to God. Listen to God, listen to God, listen to God. Because if it had not been for Him, I would probably have not made it this far in this year. Literally, listening to God saved my life this year. Listening to the people in my life that have a relationship with God saved my life this year. And so one of the things that I have kind of put away in my war chest is to listen to God. I know that there are people that don't believe in God. They don't believe in His existence. But I am living, walking proof that God is real and that God does exist, and that if you listen to him, you will live. You will make it through whatever situation, whatever trial, whatever calamity it seems has befallen you. Number 2, listen to your body. Listen to your body. Oftentimes, a lot of us tend to detach ourselves from our body. We tend to detach ourselves from what our body is feeling. And I would say to anyone who is doing that, when there are certain parts of your body that are hurting or that are aching, and it's a prolonged thing, I would even say lasting more than 24 hours, listen to your body. Look at what parts of your body are aching. Look at what parts of your body feel tense. Look at what parts of your body have a consistent pain to them, and really get those places checked out. Be examined in those areas. Don't ignore the signals that your body naturally gives off. Okay? Don't ignore it. And so that is probably one of the most important lessons that I have learned in life, is to listen to your body. Listen to my body. Right? Number 3, don't explain yourself to people who are looking to misunderstand you. Don't explain yourself to people who are looking to misunderstand you. I'll say that one more time. Don't explain yourself to people who are looking to misunderstand you. There are some people in this life that no matter what your intentions are, no matter how kind you are, no matter how compassionate you are, no matter how courteous you are, no matter how sincere you are, if they are looking at you through the lens of misunderstanding, even when you give them explanation, it's going to be filtered through misunderstanding you. So don't spend a lot of time trying to explain yourself to people who are looking to misunderstand you. Number 4, purpose leaves you no time to be petty. Purpose leaves you no time to be petty. When you know what your purpose is, when you know where you are headed for, when you know what you're doing with your life, it doesn't afford you time to be petty. All right? We know that we live in a world where people think that pettiness is something to be lauded and applauded, but it really is not. A person who thrives off pettiness is a person who lacks purpose in life. So understand, purpose leaves you no time to be petty. When you are truly flowing in your purpose, when you're truly doing what God has called you to do, you don't have time to be petty. You just don't. Because all of your energy has to go into doing what God has called you to do. Number 5, hire an editor. Hire an editor. All right. I'm putting in a plug. I am an editor. But here's the thing. Whether I'm your editor or not, please hire one. And I say that hire an editor naturally and spiritually. What do I mean by that? I mean, naturally, yeah, there are things we need in our life as far as communication that we are trying to clean up, right? But we also need people in our life that will help us edit spiritually. People that know how to hold you accountable for your actions. People that know how to hold you accountable for the things that you're saying and you're doing. All right? If you're married, hopefully your spouse is helping you with that editing, right? Hopefully your spouse is saying, now, you know, you shouldn't have said that. Can you say this a little nicer? You know, maybe you should go back and apologize to that person. Maybe you should be more generous next time. Those types of things. But really, most people need an editor for their life, and they don't realize it. Some of the things that that have been said and some of the things that have been done, sometimes I look up and I just say, does that person have an editor in their life? Because if they did, they would be better at communicating what it is they want. And they wouldn't run around offending people that they're not trying to offend. So, number 5, hire an editor, naturally and spiritually. Get with a friend who's going to hold you accountable for what you are putting out into the world. Number 6, there is more than one correct way to a solution. I know this is a hard one for people who are steeped in their own ideology, or they're steeped in their own religious self-righteousness, if I could just say it that way. But there really is more than one correct way to a solution. Now, we're not talking about ultimate truth. We're talking about solutions, right? So if I gave you 1 + 3 = 4, right? Is that the only way to get the number 4? No. It's 2 + 2 = 4. It's 1 × 4 = 4. It's 2 × 2 = 4. It's 12 divided by 3 = 4. It's 16 divided by 4 = 4. So there is more than one correct way to a answer or to a solution. Don't be so rigid in your thinking that you cannot step out of the solution that you have found in order to hear somebody else out. All right. Number 7, when you hear your truth in the mouth of someone with more influence, be happy that more people are hearing it. I know we have this thing about our revelation, quote unquote. I know we have this kind of mindset where I got this revelation first, or you're sharing a principle. And I'm not talking about in terms of legal things, right? Where people trademark things, or where people copyright and all of that, their intellectual property. That's a whole other conversation. But I'm just talking about you are sharing and you are teaching maybe, and you come up with a wonderful nugget, right? I think about the hashtag #MeToo. That was started by an African-American woman. I think she said maybe 5-10 years ago, but it's just now making its way around the world. And rather than her get up really upset about it and say, well, that's my hashtag and nobody can use that hashtag but me. No, she allowed that hashtag to be utilized. And now, even though she started it and someone else made it popular, she's going around the world speaking about the issue that she started. But someone else took it, ran with it, and they had greater influence to make that particular hashtag move across social media, move across many different kinds of platforms. So think about it this way. When you hear your truth, when you hear the nuggets that God has given to you in the mouth of someone with more influence, be happy that more people are hearing it. More people are hearing it. All right. Don't get your underwear in a bunch that other people are receiving what you've been given, maybe through another source, right? Because the reality is, all of this revelation really belongs to God. And so he's nice enough to allow us to be vessels, right? And conduits of information and truth. But ultimately, all of it really belongs to God. Okay. Number 8, a woman with no mystery will soon be history. A woman with no mystery will soon be history. I learned this one from my grandmother, but it has consistently proven to be true. She would say things like, there's a certain kind of man who is satisfied with a peep show. Like, he's not the kind of person that you want to marry. And more than likely, if he's excited about your peep show, if he chooses to marry you, you're basically going to be the peep show person. And so you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be the person who has to be an exhibitionist, right, for the rest of your life because you married someone who just wanted to show you off, or wanted to treat you like an object as opposed to a partner in life. All right. So she would often say to me, a woman with no mystery will soon be history. Have a little mystery about yourself. Don't be so transparent. Don't show all of your goods before the wedding date, that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that has stayed with me in my 40 years. Number 9. Know which battles are not yours to fight. Know which battles are not yours to fight. Never fight a battle where there is no reward. I look at sometimes the arguments that go back and forth on social media, and social media is a good place to practice this particular thing, to know which battles are not yours to fight. And never fight a battle where there is no reward. Think about it. Before you jump off into a conversation, before you dive into the abyss of a pointless argument, ask yourself, is this a battle where there is a reward? If there's no reward there, back away. Put the mouse down, put the phone down, log out for a few minutes. Just back away. It's not worth it. Number 10, self-care is a revolutionary act. This is something that I have come to understand, especially this year. Self-care is a revolutionary act. And then I thought to myself, it's revolutionary and it's also a biblical principle. Okay? Jesus didn't neglect self-care, and neither should you. He actually took time apart from the disciples to go to the Father. He retreated many times to himself. He didn't take any disciples with him, because some of us know that taking disciples along sometimes is not a retreat. Sometimes you have to wind up spending that retreat time ministering to whoever you took along. So there were times when Jesus himself pulled aside from everyone so that he could refuel himself with the Father. So self-care is a revolutionary act. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. And I don't mean in a narcissistic or selfish kind of way, but I do mean in a refueling, rejuvenating, restoring, reflective kind of way. Number 11, live each day not to the fullest, but to the emptiest. Live each day not to the fullest, but to the emptiest. Why? Because we want to make sure that we are giving and pouring out everything that we were supposed to give within that day. And as long as you continue to give, God will continue to fill you up. He will continue to pour out into you. A lot of times people don't realize that they have put a lid on what they receive because they won't open the lid up and pour out to other people. So I look at it this way. My capacity to learn something new is really predicated on my ability to distribute the knowledge that I already have. And so if I'm just holding on to the little bit that I do have and I don't ever share it with anybody, I'm really not letting myself have a open, wide capacity to receive something different or to receive something new. Number 12, people's enthusiasm will never surpass your own. This is what I have come to see. People's enthusiasm will never surpass your own. Therefore, be enthusiastic about what you bring to this earth. There is only one you. There's only one me. So make sure that you have an enthusiasm about your life. Make sure you have an enthusiasm about what God has called you to do in the earth. And understand, people are only going to be as enthusiastic as you are about what you're called to do. If you're not enthusiastic about it, you can't expect other people to be enthusiastic about it. 13, live above the snake line. This is also something I learned this year. Live above the snake line. What is a snake line? The snake line is the altitude at which snakes cannot survive. It is literally climbing and moving upward into a place where the thing that wants to sting you, the thing that wants to slither around what you're trying to get done, it can no longer survive at that altitude. So I encourage you to live above the snake line. Get to the place where you're in a space where snakes cannot survive. They can't survive. Sometimes we think staying in the place with people who can be deceptive or who can be slick, sometimes we think that we can defeat them in their own environment. But the best way to defeat a snake is not to stay in their environment. It's actually to move above their environment into a place where they cannot survive. 14, do not contest people's ignorance. Let the facts do the contesting. Do not contest people's ignorance. Let the facts do the contesting. This is another one that I have come to learn even more this year and appreciate. Many times, especially when you are an educator or you're a researcher or you're somebody in the field of knowledge and information, a lot of times people, especially in the social media realm, people try to pigeonhole you, or they try to assume they know something about you based on limited information. And so one of the things that I have learned is, rather than spend time defending my credentials or defending my ability or reputation to be able to give information to people, I just let the facts speak for themselves. So if they're not going to listen to the facts, then why in the world would I be trying to defend who I actually am to somebody who is not even open to hearing factual truth and evidence, right? We know the term fake news has been used so much until the importance of what people are trying to say about fake news tends to get lost. But really, if somebody wants to call everything fake news, they're not even in a position to have a logical conversation, debate, argument, discussion with you, because they see everything as fake news. So remember, don't contest people's ignorance. Let the facts do the contesting. So if they don't deal in factual information and they don't deal in truth, again, that goes back to number 9. Know which battles are not yours to fight. Keep it moving. 15. Know very well what you don't like as much as what you do like. And sometimes I would almost say it's almost more important to know what you don't like, all right, Because a lot of people know what they do like, but sometimes knowing what you don't like eliminates half of your battle. If you don't like smoky places, all right, you don't like tight spaces or enclosed spaces, then when somebody invites you into a situation that is both closed off and smoky, you already know that's something you don't like. So you don't have to accept that invitation. So I encourage people, don't just know what you do like, know what you don't like and be very clear about it. Number 16, peace, love, joy, empathy, truth are necessary weapons. Peace, love, joy, empathy, and truth are necessary weapons every single day of your life. They are weapons of warfare that people seem to not really understand, that they're weapons. They're not just nice emotions, right? They're weapons. A person with peace can repel the argumentative person every time. A person of love can pierce the hater. A person of joy can neutralize depression. A person of empathy can storm through the gates of apathy, and a person of truth can free a person from ignorance. So these are necessary weapons every day. Fight for your peace. Use the weapon of love. Fight for your joy. Keep it overflowing. Fight to be a person of empathy, that you actually want to care about other people and what's happening in this world. And fight for the truth. Be a person of truth. Be a person who delivers truth. Be a person who speaks truth. Be a person who stands up for truth, because these are necessary weapons. 17, listen to inaction. Listen to inaction. This is what I have learned. You can find out how people feel about you by the action they don't take. All right? So when they take no action to respond, to speak, to help you, to give, to support, to sponsor, etc., listen. Silence does speak. So listen to inaction. Pay attention to the silence. Pay attention to the people who don't clap when you get promoted. Pay attention to the people who are silent when God is doing something phenomenal in your life. Pay attention, because inaction speaks. Silence speaks. Number 18, you cannot get fresh eyes until you deal with a sour attitude, spoiled information, and tainted sources. I'll say that one more time. You cannot have or get fresh eyes until you deal with sour attitudes, spoiled information, and tainted sources. Sometimes what we need is right in front of us, but we cannot see it because you have a sour attitude, you have a spoiled information, and sometimes you're getting information from a tainted source. And so those three things oftentimes hinder people from having fresh eyes for a situation in which they need fresh eyes. Number 19, home is where I am free to be me without the sting of a stigma, a stereotype, or oppression, which lets me know this world is not my home. I'm just passing through. So I'm not going to get comfortable here because this world is not my home. It's a beautiful world in many cases, in many places, but it's not home. Home is where I am free to be me without the sting of stigmas, stereotypes, or oppression. 20. Don't be afraid to dream another dream or to amend your dream. New information can bring transformation to a dream. Now, I would not necessarily call myself a dreamer, but when I do dream, the dreams actually come to pass, which always concerns me because all of my dreams are not necessarily happy things. But I know that when I do dream them, they are going to happen because that's been the pattern of my dream life all of my life. But I would say to you, don't be afraid to dream another dream or to amend the dream that God has given to you. New information can bring transformation to a dream. There were certain dreams that I dreamed as a young child about my future as an adult. And as I got older, those dreams would be reoccurring dreams, and then new information would be added into those dreams as I got older. So I had to not just focus on what did I understand about the dream when God first gave it to me, but I also had to go back and say, now that new information keeps being added to this dream, what does that information mean? So I encourage you, don't be afraid to dream another dream. God is placing something new on your heart. Don't be afraid to pursue it. 21. You may not have arrived here by desire, but you are here by design. This is something that God spoke to me probably a couple days ago, and it has just been settling in my heart. The fact that so many of us, I know in my own case with my own life, my mother made it a point of saying that she did not want me. I was her last child that she brought into the world. And I remember her telling, me and my siblings several times about how she could have aborted us, but she chose not to. I remember her having a conversation with me about how she tried to get rid of me, how she actually smoked during her entire pregnancy with the hopes that I would not survive. And so it's very interesting when your parent tells you this. And I was thinking on that the other day that even though she smoked the entire time and I was born with a very low birth weight and I was born with an asthma. I don't have asthma now, but I had it as a child. I was sitting down and I was thinking about just the ways that God protected me in the womb, even though my mother was trying to make sure I didn't get here. And as I was thinking on that, the Lord just began to speak that to me. He said, you may not have arrived here by desire. In other words, you may not have arrived here because someone desired your presence. Like your parents did not plan for you. I know my mother did not plan for me. So he said, you may not have arrived here by desire, but you are here by design. And there are so many other people I know out in the world who feel like they were unplanned, or maybe you've been told that you were not wanted. Maybe you were given up for adoption, whatever the situation may be. My mother didn't give me up for adoption. She chose to keep me. But the reality is I wasn't like the person that she wanted to bring into the world. She wasn't doing any family planning to say, hey, I'm ready to have a child and let's do this, right? But God says, even though it wasn't her desire, it was my design to bring you into the world. And God designed it that you and I should be here at this point in human history, that we have a purpose for being here. And that to me is just very, very powerful. So it's something that I plan to hold on to for another 40 years if he lets me see them. 22. Everyone has something they are called to do in human history, but many will only do what they sense a religious structure will approve. Now, listen. He said to me, they may fulfill a fraction of their actual purpose because they don't see the greater call to humanity on their life. Listen, if you are a part of human history right now, you have something within you that you are supposed to be doing that will affect human history. But if you're only locked into a segment of human population, which may be your religious affiliation or your religious structure, right? You might only fulfill a fraction of what you are actually placed here to do because of your mindset, right? Because of your mindset. So I want to say, expand your mind today. Ask God, what am I called to do in human history? Who am I supposed to be touching as far as humanity goes? Not just as far as churchianity goes, not just as far as the four walls of a religious institution goes, but who am I supposed to be touching in humanity? What are you calling me to do to serve humankind? Not just the humankind that I agree with on a religious worldview level, but who am I supposed to be ministering to in humanity? Because again, he said to me, everyone has something they're called to do in human history, but many will only do what they sense a religious structure will approve. 23. I am good ground, hidden treasure, not meant to be found by surface people, but by those who will think deeply, dig deeply, and drink deeply. This is something I have learned, and therefore, if I know that I'm good ground, if I know that I'm hidden treasure, then I know everybody's not seeking it out, right? People like to say they're not some people's cup of tea. I like to say I'm not everybody's cup of tea because I'm coffee, right? And certain people like coffee. They're coffee connoisseurs. There are people who spend time sniffing out coffee. There are people who know what kind of coffee they can, by the taste of it, they can tell if it's smooth. They can tell if it's dark roast. They can tell if it's a medium roast. Some people are so good they could tell you the coffee bean, where it was produced, right? So when you know that you're good ground and when you know that you're hidden treasure, you don't go around devaluing yourself, all right? So today, understand that you are good ground. You are hidden treasure. You're not meant to be found by surface people. All right. You are meant to be found by people who can value you, who are willing to think deeply, who are willing to dig deeper, who are willing to get off of the shallow spectrum of life. 24. You will not convince anyone to support you because they know you. They have to support you because they value what you bring to this life. These are things that I have learned. You will not convince anyone to support you because they know you. They have to support you because they value what you bring to this life. And sometimes you will find that in family members, right? If they haven't gotten so familiar with you, or if they can only remember you maybe from your childhood mishaps, if they can get past that, then they might come to value what you bring to this life, as opposed to, oh, that's just, Sally's little daughter, right? Even Jesus had to deal with that. Come on. He was the Son of God. And people were still going around saying, oh, that's just the carpenter's son. Oh, that's just Mary's little baby. Like they could not get past their childhood version of Jesus. And there will be like people like that in your life. You will run into people who can only see you from the perspective of their initial interaction with you in life. All right? But people have to support you because they value what you bring to this life. And when you find those kind of people who value who you are in the earth and what you bring to this life, hold on to them and don't let them go. 25. Invisibility is a hurtful thing. Invisibility is a hurtful thing. When people treat you like you don't exist, never knew you, or never made an impact on their life, it's hurtful. So a lot of times people say, the opposite of love is hate. But I think that the opposite of love is apathy. It is when people know who you are, right? But they choose to look through you or to look past you or to not acknowledge your existence. Because as human beings, a part of us being human is our interaction that we have with each other, our ability to be heard, our ability to be seen, our ability to be known, our ability to, for someone to care for us, for someone to simply say, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I know you. And that's one thing that invisibility snatches away from a person. So when a person is treated like they don't exist, or they're treated like they've never made an impact on someone, that invisibility, that feeling where the person acts like you don't exist can be very, very hurtful. And we see that in the life of Christ. We see that with Christ on the night that he was taken in for questioning, right? The one thing that he said that Peter would do, Peter would deny him. Peter would deny who he was. Peter would deny his existence. Looking right at Christ. Because if you read the Gospels, you'll see after the third time, I forget which gospel it is, but after the third time that Peter denied Christ, the scripture says, and Jesus looked at him. I can almost imagine Jesus giving Peter a side eye, like, you know that you know me. Come on. You've walked with me for 3.5 years. You've been discipled by me. And at the most crucial time in Jesus's life, the one time that you are supposed to stand up and say, yes, I'm with him, Peter says, I don't even know him. I don't know who you're talking about. So invisibility can be a hurtful thing. 26. If you aren't obeying God, not much else matters. Now, somebody probably would have put this as number 1, but these are not in order. If you aren't obeying God, not much else matters. It's well done. His well done is the most important affirmation in life. His well done is the most important affirmation in life. So if you aren't obeying God, what are you doing? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to hear nobody else say well done except him. Because if he says well done, then I know I'm going to be with him forever. And if he's not saying well done, it's going to be problematic. 27. Testing is designed to see if you know the material, not if you can regurgitate it. Here we go. Most of us have probably had a test or two that we've had to retake. Why do we have to retake it? Because we didn't know the material. Testing is designed to see if you know the material, not if you can regurgitate the material. This is why God will test the same concepts on you in many ways at different times with different people. Yep. There was one particular test in my life where I think my husband and I were both being tested at the same time, I believe on the same principle, because we went through it 3 times in a row. And after the first time, I knew we had pretty much we didn't do well. But I didn't realize it was a test the first time. So the second time we went through literally almost the exact same scenario. The people were acting very, very similar, which means they had a familiar spirit. So we saw the familiarity of the spirit of the persons that we were dealing with. And we did better on the second round, but I know we didn't pass everything that we needed to pass in that experience. So then guess what? Time number 3 rolled around and I said, listen, we cannot keep going around this mulberry bush. This spirit, whatever it is, okay, whatever this is, we have to pass it this time, because if we don't, we're going to see this spirit again. And it's going to feel like we have been going around the mountain, okay? And we don't need to do that again. So the third time, by the third time of this experience, we had kind of figured out what familiar spirit it was that was trying to follow us. We had figured out how we were supposed to respond to that spirit and to that spirit operating in people. We had figured out how we were going to get the victory over it so that we could move on in our life. And when we figured those things out and we acted differently in response to that same spirit, the power of the issue and the power of the test was broken and we were able to move on. So that's why I say testing is designed to see if you know the material, not if you can regurgitate it. God will test the same concepts on you in many ways at different times with different people. So if you see the same scenarios recurring in your life, the same spirit keeps reoccurring, or the same, I'll give you an example, the same kind of betrayal keeps occurring in your life, you need to step back and say, God, what am I missing about this spirit of betrayal? What am I supposed to be doing in response to it? How am I supposed to be heading off this spirit before it has an opportunity to sabotage and spoil something that I'm supposed to have? I'm telling you, if you can figure that out and begin to pass your tests, you will not keep going around the mulberry bush in life. 28. Whatever spirit or character flaw you did not conquer, expect to see it again. Whatever spirit or character flaw you did not conquer, expect to see it again. If you have not conquered procrastination, expect to see procrastination again, over and over and over and over again, until you learn how to deal with procrastination and how to move away from being a procrastinator. You're going to see it again. That's just an example. 29. Feeling the pleasure of God makes you tone deaf to angry, self-righteous, disrespectful people. As long as God says speak, I will speak and teach. Because when you understand that God is in your corner, and when you understand that God is the one waving the winner circle flag saying, let's go. When you feel the pleasure of God on your life, when you know that you have his approval to do something and you have his approval to say something, then when people come up against you, they may be angry, they may be self-righteous, they may be disrespectful, they may be saying, who the heck do you think you are to be telling me X, Y, and Z? As long as you can feel God's approval and God is the one telling you to do it, it makes you tone deaf a lot of times to what people are trying to say to you, because you know that you're not doing it out of your own will. You're doing it out of the will of God. 30. Most people are being indoctrinated, not educated. How do I know this? Glad you asked. Education frees you to think for yourself. Indoctrination shackles you to think like whoever taught you. I'm going to say that again. Education frees you to think for yourself. Indoctrination shackles you to think like whoever taught you. And so it's very easy to tell whether a person has been educated, because if they've been educated, they have their own original thoughts. If they've been indoctrinated, they're simply regurgitating or repeating what someone else has told them. They may not have done any research. They may have only just repeated what their teacher has told them, which is completely different from actually studying and doing research yourself and finding out the information. So most people are being indoctrinated and not educated. And my theory and thoughts on that is make sure you're one of those who are being educated. 31. Good success is a mindset distributed to those who are ready to cross over and conquer. Good success is a mindset distributed to those who are ready to cross over and conquer. If you want good success, you have to be ready to cross over and conquer. Much like Joshua in Scripture, when God told him, my servant Moses is dead. I know the people have mourned, but it is time for you all to get up and to cross over. Joshua had to renew his mind. He had to renew his mind. There was not a Moses that was before him anymore. So he had to do what? He had to learn how to trust the voice and instructions of God. So if we want good success, our mindset has to change. And we have to say, I am ready to hear the instructions of the Lord. I may have had a Moses in my life. I may have had a teacher. I may have had someone that I looked up to. But if that person is no longer there, do you have enough of a relationship with God to be able to hear God when he tells you to cross over, and when he tells you to conquer, and when he tells you to move? 32. People will disappear on you and tell everyone you abandoned them. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. I know the popular term is ghosting, right? When people go ghost, they just disappear. But people will disappear on you and tell everyone that you abandoned them. Stay away from these kinds of people. They're deceptive, and they're dangerously deceptive. All right? That's all I have to say about that. Just stay away from them. 33. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. As a person who loves knowledge, as a person who loves information, as a person who loves teaching and sharing new thoughts and concepts with people, I had to learn this. That, okay, yeah, you might know some things, you might have information, but do people actually know that you care? Or are you just spouting information? Are you just a person who wants to just come in and teach something, but you spend no time interacting or building relationship with people. And so this is one of my kind of lifelong lessons of trying to get to know the people that I'm connected to. One of the things I like to do on my social media and people that I'm connected to there is, if I know it's your birthday, I like to come on your page and I like to personally say happy birthday to you. And that's one of the ways that I like to be personable with every person that I'm connected to. So if your birthday comes up and I know that it's your birthday and you haven't lied about your age on social media and said you're 103 to start a page, I will come on your page and say happy birthday to you directly. Why? Because I want to build relationship with you. When people friend request me, and I'm not taking any more friend requests until December 1st. I don't have a lot of them, but I am a person that actually goes and I read your profile. I see what you like and don't like. I scroll down your timeline and I look at what you are posting. And then I look at what you're allowing to be posted on your wall. And then I try to make, a wise and discerning decision as to whether or not you and I need to be friends. Because guess what? If I come to your page and you have, Waka Flocka for most of your timeline and, you like porn sites, chances are you and I are not going in the same direction. So why waste your time or my time pretending that we're going in the same direction? So 33, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Don't just be the person that wants to be heard, but sit down and listen to others as well. 34, don't ask me to bless your nightmare when I warned you it was going to be a nightmare. This is one that I have learned as a leader and as a pastor. Sometimes people come to you and they ask you for counsel. They ask you for advice. And you give them the advice that God tells you to give to these people. And, sometimes it may be, I think you need to let that person go. I think you need to leave this relationship, etc., etc. This is not you controlling their life. This is you going to God and saying, God, what do you want me to tell Sister Watermelon? And God tells you, tell Sister Watermelon that person is not good for her. So you go back to the person, Sister Watermelon, and you tell Sister Watermelon what God has told you. Now, if Sister Watermelon believes the God in you and that you heard from God, right? Sister Watermelon would break off the relationship. But no, Sister Watermelon doesn't do that. Sister Watermelon forges ahead with the relationship, and then the relationship turns into a nightmare. And then Sister Watermelon wants to come to you to keep asking you to put out fires on something that Sister Watermelon should have never gotten into. So this is why I say, don't ask me to bless your nightmare when I warned you it was going to be a nightmare. Stop asking leaders for counsel if you're not going to follow it. Just do what you want to do. As Nike says, just do it. And then deal with the consequences. But don't bring other people into your disobedience by asking for counsel that you're not going to follow. All right? Then you expect them to spend the rest of their life counseling you out of what you could have avoided altogether. It's not fair. It's not fair to the leader. All right? I look at the shooting situation that happened in Suitland, Texas, or Sweetland, Texas. That was a domestic issue. And that leader, that pastor over that flock, had actually gotten a restraining order against that gentleman for him to not come to that church. And he waited until the pastor was out of town to go and attack the flock. Almost everyone that was a member of that congregation was shot. And half of them were killed. And it was over a domestic situation. So, especially with domestic situations, when people are trying to counsel you, just understand that sometimes your bad choices and your bad decisions affects not just you. That one literally affected an entire church. All right. 35. Idolatry will remain in the church. I know it's a hard one to wrap your head around. But idolatry will remain in the church. The ecclesia, however, will escape it. If you see nothing wrong with the church right now in its current state, as it is, you're probably not of the ecclesia. And let me just put this sidebar here. Please go research what ecclesia means and go research what church means, and you will see they're not synonymous. People keep saying we are the church. We are not the church. The church is a building. The church is a system. The church is a structure. The ecclesia is the people. They're not the same. They're not the same word. They're not synonymous. We are not the church. We are the ecclesia. So understand that the idolatry, the lies, some of the corruption that you see, it ain't going anywhere. But if you're a part of the ecclesia, if you're a part of the called out ones, you will be able to escape it. You will become what the scripture calls the wheat and not the tare. Bible reference for that is Matthew 13. So make sure you read it. 36. You must conquer materialism to possess materials and use them to the glory of God. You must conquer materialism to possess materials and use them to the glory of God. I don't even have to enumerate, right, the ways that people have not conquered materialism. Materialism makes you get up at 3 a.m. on a Friday, a week before Black Friday, to go camp out in front of a store. That's someone who hasn't conquered materialism. All right. So you have to conquer materialism to possess materials and use them to the glory of God. 37. Your supporters are those who show up by their presence, who sow by their purchase, and share what you're doing. Sometimes friends are not synonymous with supporters. I don't understand. Sometimes we run our friends ragged by expecting them to support everything we do. Friends are not synonymous with supporters. Let me say that again. Friends are not synonymous with supporters. Someone being your friend does not necessarily mean that they have to support or buy everything that you put out. That's what you have a customer base for. All right. So if I sell easy bake ovens and I have friends that don't cook or friends that don't have children, chances are they're not going to buy an easy bake oven. Right. So we have to understand that your supporters are people who show up, sow, and share what you're doing. Sometimes friends are not synonymous with supporters. And when we make our friends dollar signs, we actually devalue the relationship that we are supposed to have with our friends. Please, 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 please stop making your friends a dollar sign. If you're in business, go and pursue customers. Find out who your target audience is, but stop making all your friends dollar signs. Appreciate them for the position that they have in your life. And sometimes that's definitely not to buy all of your products. 38. Life requires perseverance. It is the gas that keeps you going. Life requires perseverance. It is the gas that keeps you going. 39. Fight to persevere in yourself. Fight to persevere in yourself. A forgiving heart. Fight to have a forgiving heart. Fight to have a sense of humor. And fight to have the ability to not hold grudges. Every single day, have a forgiving heart. Have a sense of humor, because there are plenty of things where you're going to need to laugh at yourself. That's just reality. And an ability to not hold grudges. 40. I don't believe life is a mountain that we climb, but an ocean that we navigate. Why? An ocean is fluid. It has calm days. It has choppy days. It has tumultuous days. But all of the days are teeming with life. Sometimes we're floating. Sometimes we're underwater. Sometimes we can choose to float. And sometimes we can choose to dive in. We can change the way that we're moving through life, just like we can change the way that we're moving through the ocean. We can put on some scuba gear. We can be on a surfboard. We can use a jet ski. We can be in a canoe, a sailboat, a yacht, or an ocean liner. Life has ebbs and flows. It has low tides and it has high tides. And one day we're all going to have an opportunity to stand at the river of life and to see God as he is. Some of us will see him as he is, and some of us will wish that we had made different decisions before we see him as he is. But that was an interesting question that was posed to me the other day about life. And did I see life as a mountain to climb? And I really don't. I see life as an ocean to travel upon. So here's my bonus as I close for today. My bonus thing that I have learned as I go through my own recovery today is that everyone wants to be a diamond, but very few people want to be cut. Yeah. So as I'm dealing with my own recovery process here, I started looking at what happens with a diamond. What's the process with a diamond? And one of the things that I'm seeing, just even in the process of a diamond, is that a diamond is forced to the surface by volcanic activity. Nobody wants volcanic activity in their life. If you have survived an earthquake, okay, or an eruption in the earth, a shaking in the earth, it's pretty frightening that when it happens. But in order for a diamond to come to light, it is actually forced to the surface by volcanic activity. It's blasted, it's drilled, it's crushed, and it's processed. It's actually sorted into 5,000 different categories. Then it is sold to a private buyer. After it's sold to a private buyer, then it ends up at a cutting center. Then a decision has to be made as to how it's going to be cut in order to yield the greatest value from it. Then it's going to be marked and sawed on for cutting. All of this occurs before it's polished and cleaned for presentation. And only about 20% of diamonds are actually suitable for polishing. So again, everybody wants to be a diamond, but very few people want to be cut. Very few people want to have volcanic activity in their life that forces them to the surface, out into the open. But one thing that I'm learning, and I'm going to keep learning, and I pray that I always remember, is that the process cannot be bypassed. How do you want to have a successful life? How do you want to live a successful life? The processes of life cannot be bypassed. Defective people have skipped the process. One of the things that they say about the process of a diamond is that you cannot skip these processes for the diamond to shine like it needs to shine. And so if you're defective in your life, if you're finding yourself as ineffective in your life, go back and see, are you skipping processes? Because defective people have skipped process and they won't shine like they need to. Remember this: no process, no shine. No process, no shine. So I hope that I have said something in this last hour. I know I'm a little over an hour now. I hope I have said something that was helpful to you. I hope that these lessons have been helpful to you. If you have something that you want to share with me today on my birthday, you can always find me on Facebook under Shantae Charles. And you can wish me happy birthday on my page today. My page is open for public conversation. And if you would like to give, you can do that. I have a giving link here in my bio. And I just want to close by saying thank you for hanging out with me for this hour. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And I hope that you will take time to reflect on your own life and think about the lessons that you're learning in your own life that you can pass on to someone else. I am thankful to be in the land of the living. I'm thankful to have life. I'm thankful to have recovering health. I'm thankful to have strength. I'm thankful to have friends and family, supporters, friends, acquaintances, and people that show every single day that I matter to them. And I want to say thank you for your time and attention. Daring Dialogues will be back in December. We're going to kick off our next 10 broadcasts before the holidays, and we're going to be doing some giveaways at episode 75. All right. Thank you again for your time and attention. Take care and God bless. Hope you enjoyed sitting on my couch today.